Captain Himadri, the platform is yours. You can tell your story.
Right. Well, just distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank that I've been given this opportunity to say something about it. My job is to tell you about the quality assurance system followed in UniMET, which is very, very similar to BTEC, having had considerable experience, a number of years in England and abroad, in Singapore, and in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and in Turkey. I worked under the auspices of Professor Zirati for 4 years in Turkey, and involved with the system and quality assurance, internal verifications, and so on. So, ideally, Matt Clark is supposed to be coming here. He's BTEC senior regional advisor, or officer and manager, and he can't come. So I thought, having had lots of experience, I would be able to fill in the gap what he would have said. So the main thing about quality assurance system is we follow. Everybody's talking about BTEC and BTEC and BTEC for so long, but I know that in Europe, Union, a lot of people haven't heard of BTEC. It's only in England. And because they haven't heard, they're not really sure about the exact quality procedures they follow. And I'm going to tell you step by step, very quickly, this time is very short. Others have already said something about it, so that you understand how rigorous this quality system, assurance system is there in BTEC. It will every step of the way. It has to be absolutely accurate. And if not, you are not given the permission to run that course. So let's go ahead and see. Oh, sorry. First of all, I think I call this one because this is the main, we have to talk about the main goal of UniMET. And we said to develop a uniform model in delivery of maritime education and training. We get confused with the uniform system or uniform model when you talk about, as if you are trying to say that we're going to have only one system and everybody follows. It isn't that. Well, the idea of the uniform model was that we have a uniform standard of quality assurance, and whichever country they are running the course, they could keep running the course the way they run, and just to see whether we cover all the requirements for STCW in our programs in all the countries. So, next to establish the quality assurance and control system and delivery of UniMET in line with the STCW standards, people have talked about it, spread the UniMET further across Europe, raising awareness and transferring good practices for the safety of sea around the world. That was the main idea. So, to be able to do that, we need to follow some of the good practices which can be applied to the UniMET. Again, the question can arise, what is a good practice? You know, the good practice is anything which you can learn from somebody else who are doing pretty well and benefiting from it. So, BTEC actually covers all that, and having been with them, I realized that every country can have their own internal regulations which BTEC recognizes. So you can have that already. The UniMET program has been developed in line in conjunction with the requirements of Machinery Training Board, Maritime Coastal Agency, and so on. This has been talked about already, so I skip that. STCW requirements of seafaring are met fully. What is the result? Oh, sorry. We're talking about our BTEC when we did the cross-referencing of 9 different countries through UniMET project, when Professor Zirati had asked me to look at it and do cross-referencing. We found that all of the countries, in fact, following the STCW some way or the other. May not be the exact way with the, in England we've been following. Majority of the countries take 3 to 4 years. All partner countries today must have STCW safety ancillary courses incorporated somehow into their course. I have said except in Holland and Finland. Please excuse me, Finland doesn't have that. Only Holland has got their own ancillary courses incorporated in their OOW. Then the cadets of all partner countries are required to maintain either an ISF onboard training book or record book or a seafaring portfolio. In the UK, it is a must, which is MNTV's requirement that all cadets going out at sea must go through that portfolio. Each and every task within the portfolio has to be carried out, signed by a responsible officer at sea, either chief officer, captain, or whoever designated. And that has to be signed and say that they have done this all the stars. Then they come to the maritime institutions or training places. Then the lecturers within the college where this particular cadet is doing their course, whether it is HND or going for MCA qualification, these portfolios are again looked at, and interviews and questions are asked to the student to justify whether they have actually fulfilled these tasks. I mean, they get copies from somewhere, you can get the signature from somebody. So therefore, the staff are very, very rigorous in asking questions and finding out whether all these tasks so far been signed and have been done by the cadet are actually done by him or not. On completion of that, they give a certificate from the college. That's not on. That is again presented to MCA, and they look at it again, see whether all these requirements have been checked and properly done, and then they allow to do the examination. So cadets are all partner countries, I said, on completion of their studies and examination, receive a deck COC or marine engineering COC. This has all been found. Only cadets in Holland receive both deck and engineering COC on completion of their studies. So there are again, just we didn't know. I've been in England for more than 40 years, teaching in maritime colleges for more than 30 years. I never knew that very neighboring country in Holland, they have a system where you can go for 3 years or 4 years and you become either a chief engineer or a captain, which was for us was very difficult in England anyway. Additional courses such as efficient deckhand, NARAS simulator course, bridge team management talked about before, and that is set by UK authorities. Now then, next thing is, how do you get this approval for UniMET courses for a creation body like BTEC? Why do you want some body like BTEC to approve these courses? The reason is the BTEC is running thousands of courses in more than 100 countries in the world. And they are issuing a certificate of competency based on all the work that people have been doing. It is on competition based. And I'll tell you how it is. Before you start with your any course, the UniMET course or navigation or whatever, you need to submit a little form giving all details of these things. I'll go very quickly. Name the unit value as per the NVQ, perhaps you know again, National Vocational Qualification criteria, like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, like Arvind Bay said, Arvind Bindal said about it. Level 4 and level 5 will give the HND. This is decided by their own standard anyway. But unit value must be there, whether it's a management level, or it's a knowledge-based level, or it's the lower level. Course duration must be very specific. They know that you cannot teach a lot of things in a short period of time, or very little time, you've got too much time to pass on the messages. So the course duration is very important, whether it's 60 hours or 120 hours. Aim of the unit has to be absolutely precise. What you are aiming at by giving this course to somebody. Unit description will be precisely clear. What is it all about? What we are doing in this particular subject. Learning outcomes you talked about. What is learning outcome after all? It is actually at the end of the course, when you finish that, what you expect the student to learn. That's the learning outcome. Basically, for 60 hours, BTEC has made a standard that 60 hours you can have not more than 4 learning outcomes. But for each learning outcome, you must have lots of performance criteria to cover. Unless you fulfill all the performance criteria, you cannot cover the learning outcome. Then you have to say also delivery and assessment method, how the course has to be delivered. It has to be all written very clearly and make sure it has been delivered that way. You know, it could have a simulation attached to it, have practical work attached to it, and how the assessment methods are done. Assessment means how you assess. All the performance criteria you mentioned about has to be covered by the cadet or student, and it has to be checked. You cannot miss even one. That's the basic requirement for a pass. They also gone into higher level and higher level, like merit and distinction. But the minimum level, that all performance criteria must be covered by the student properly and accepted by the teacher. So once you do that, an assessment method has to be given to them that this is our assessment, this is the criteria, and they have to do that. And resources available for the unit also is required, but in the college, you have enough resources. You can't sort of go to BTEC and say, I want to start this course, and here is my list, and here it is. they will like to check whether we have got all the items you're talking about, including staff and facilities like simulators and classrooms and everything. They will check everything there and see if it is appropriate or not. And also, what sort of links you have got with other qualifications. Like we talked about H&D and other areas, may have some kind of a link, so you have to clear that as well. Then, for a final approval, when that is approved, you have to give a content details, a declaration to the principal or the head of center saying that he or she agrees, ongoing approval conditions in regards to the human and physical resources. In other words, all the staff must have the appropriate qualification and experience. And the staff's qualification and CV had to be sent to them for checking that it is authentic and they have the right qualification to teach or also assess the program. Assessment details with its sample assignment has to be given as well. So if you have to have assessment, you have to have exact details, and one sample assignment to cover all these outcomes has to be shown to them for their experts to look at it and approve it. Who are the target learners? How many people are expecting? You know, if you have 10 people expecting, your course may not be viable. They are going to say how many people are going to benefit from your course. Internal verification system, where I came in, where I worked with Professor Zirati in Julian, where I did the internal verification for BTEC. It's a big system within the organization where every staff are assessors who are assessing the course, and there will be one person properly qualified, or 2 or 3 persons properly qualified to verify the course, to see exactly whether the course is running properly, whether the questions are written properly, whether the assessment is done regularly and properly. Everything is checked on an ongoing basis, and the staff development as well. So that is very, very important for internal verification. And then the external verification, evidence to see the staff and certificate I mentioned. And then it goes to the external verifier. External verifier would be BTEC authorities coming on board and at random picking up papers and checking everything to see whether the assignments are written properly, whether it has been internally verified properly, and so on. If there are any discrepancy, then they will actually write a big note, and we have to make sure it is done for the next time. Otherwise, of course, validation can be effective. Okay, so the center, the BTEC unit delivered assignments approval when you got what you do, that you have an accurate unit details, you have accurate program details, clear deadline for assessment. Again, this is important because sometimes they said, okay, we have 4 assessments and the student can take their own time and do it. Oh no, they have to have a specific time given, a couple of weeks, and that date is fixed. If they don't do that within that time, they are penalized. They're called again and they're given and they cannot get more marks. So have to have clear deadlines for assessment, shows all relevant grading for the unit. As I said, we have pass, merit, and distinction. Criteria for pass, criteria for merit, criteria for distinction has to be clearly stated. And also grading criteria, as I said. Let's go further. Now then, since that is the BTEC system, and we realize that we can take all these good practices, what are the good practices? I'm just letting some over here. What clearly states what evidence a learner needs to provide that it is set at the appropriate level. That is one of the criteria for quality of good practice for BTEC. As a time period of appropriate duration for the course as well as for the assignment, suitable vocational language being used, in this case it is English, and has a clear presentation form. Internal verification I've already mentioned, I won't go through that. The system is, as I said, very, very rigorous. They will not accept unless all these things are properly laid down and checked. So twice a year, the external verifier comes in to the center and checks whether the internal verifier is doing his or her job properly, and also whether all the assignments and everything is done according to the system. What I mean by system, all the courses have the same standard layout, all the courses have the same information and same requirements, and also whatever they want for teaching and learning strategies and resources and links and so on. Same standard. So if you pick up any BTEC unit, it will have the same form. Okay, external verification I mentioned, and now is the question about NVQ. That also the qualification BTEC look after, but they have not got the empowerment to issue a certificate. All they can say is your portfolio is okay, it has been checked and thoroughly done, and the cadets then go to MCA and get the certificate. We talked about portfolio before. I think it's a very good idea because when I was at sea, we had this portfolio. At that time, we thought, my God, so many things we have to do. But having been there for 3 years as a cadet out at sea, each and every task was done. Sometimes of the, mind you, was staying all the time. The chief officer's job to make sure that all tasks are carried out. Some of the tasks incorporated into those an NGV portfolio perhaps could be very difficult for cadets to do. But efforts are made at sea. It depends on the master and chief officers to make sure that the cadet gets all the necessary practical on-hand training, and that's what's filled in the portfolio. In other words, you have the competence base on board the ship, you learn everything, and it is actually attested and testified by senior officers. And also you have got the maritime application and training system where internally verified, externally verified to match all that. And therefore I think the system is very good, and UniMET can follow that system. But having looked at others, maybe there are other areas, other countries may have a different system, which we may look at it carefully and see what's the best. And then we perhaps apply that to all of us. Thank you so much. One example of the GMDSS. I'm just going to show you one because GMDSS, GMDSS has been approved, and here is the application we made, and here are the unit title, unit code, and unit introduction, all about the. Yeah, just come to this one. Here it is. Here are the learning outcomes on the left, and then you have the learning outcomes. The learner should be able to use, for example, explain DHM, radio communication system, and these are the assessment criteria for that particular learning outcome. Send a distress alert using LRC equipment, receive one, send an urgency message, receive. They have to actually practically do that. It's a practical part. And then carry on the second one. Okay. To be able to use and explain MF and HF radio communication system, and there are the 4 criteria they have to justify. Again, to be able to communicate information using NAPTEX or TP, IRB, or portable survival craft, handheld VHF, and they have to show that they have been able to do that. Yeah. So all these criteria that you can so, yeah. And then under each criteria, each learning outcome, all the topics have to be covered, has to be written very clearly. What are the topics you are covering under those learning outcomes? Once that is done, then you have to say, to be able to pass, for instance, assessment criteria 1, the learner will demonstrate how to send a distress alert or in C or using A1, whatever areas or things. Finally, we have to give them an assignment and a plan of the whole assignment, how it is covered, all the important books and references. Here it is, you have to give them a chart saying that assessment criteria 1.1 under learning outcome 1, it is done by simulation as well as a test. That's the map they must have as well, so that it is fully covered. And at the end, a summary also has to be provided, each question within the assignment, where it is covered and when it is covered. So in other words, it's very, very thorough, and you cannot miss it. The only thing is some people asked me when I was talking to them, how do you ensure that everything has been learned? How can you test somebody with everything? You don't have to have only one exam or test. You can have a continual process. You could have, interviews, and you can have assignments to incorporate all that and make sure that they have covered it. This is an example of the assignment for Tuesday which I prepared. So you use it a bit more, and you can see exactly all the questions and which learning outcome and which assessment criteria it covers. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know the time is short. I'll talk to you more, but thank you very much.